Welcome to Both Sides of the Story. I'm your host, Alan Janae from CBS 4. Thank you for joining us. Our special high school debate series returns, challenging our students and our viewers to look at important Colorado issues from both sides. Now, you'll see each student offer a case, ask and answer questions of their opponent, and offer rebuttal. We'll also feature an expert judging panel that will chime in with questions of their own. Both students have prepared a pro and a con case for tonight's debate topic, and they won't know which side they'll defend until we have a coin flip right here in the studio. We've added a brand new element this year. A winner will be chosen from each school and will then go on to compete in the semifinals. Then we will ultimately name a Both Sides of the Story champ. Be sure to watch throughout the season as each of our winners is named and then moves on through the tournament. On tonight's show, let's welcome students from the Cherry Creek High School speech and debate team. They have been consistently ranked in the top 15 nationally and were awarded the School of Excellence Award at the Nationals this year. Let's meet our participants. First up is Andrew Ying. He is a senior at Cherry Creek High and truly prides himself on being a team motivator. He also serves on the National Honor Society Board. Next up is Will Herbst. He is also part of the National Honor Society Board. He runs cross country and has played violin for about 10 years. Also joining us tonight, our special panel of experts who will offer their analysis of the debate today. They are Dominic Dezzutti, host of Colorado Decides, the election debate series produced in conjunction with CBS 4. Next to him is Marty Benham, the head coach of the team. And finally, Carly Holliday, Cherry Creek's assistant speech and debate coach. Now, before we get started, let's hear what Cherry Creek's speech and debate team has meant to Andrew.
Debate is truly a cross-disciplinary activity. We have people on varsity sports. We have people from every single corner of Cherry Creek High School that all just share a common interest in learning more about the world. And I think that's what debate truly is, more than just discussions of philosophy or discussions of policy. It's just a discussion about how the world around us shapes our environment. And that's what I think that I appreciate most about debate, and how everyone, all of my closest friends, they might do completely different things, but that we have this shared interest, and one period of the day we can all discuss it and become closer as a sort of family.
Now, Andrew, as a senior here, is thinking of attending either Columbia or Harvard or Stanford next year. We'll see where he goes. And now, Will shares the skills he has learned while competing on the team.
There's always the adrenaline rush that comes with it, getting ready to go into a round and debate anything. The thing is, you never know what the other team is going to say, and you have to be prepared for everything. The element of uncertainty, it's almost like the fog of war. You're going to this fight, almost like intellectual fight with them. You don't know what they're going to say, and it's just purely, what do I know? How can I use what I know to counter what they know? If we both know what we're going to be talking about, it's less fun, it's prepared, but just the unknowingness of it makes it almost more enjoyable. I think it's invaluable, the research skills that it gives you, the public speaking skills that it gives you, and like I talked about, the element of uncertainty, it prepares you for anything in life.
As a senior, Will is looking at Duke or Dartmouth or maybe Vanderbilt next year. We'll see where they go. Okay, time to set the ground rules right now. Each side will present their case, ask each other questions, and have a chance to offer rebuttals. When it's finished, we'll go to our illustrious panel for their own questions and find out who they felt offered the best arguments. So let's get started. The issue up for debate today is this: whether the use of photo radars should be permitted. So we'll have our coin flip right now and we'll get underway. Will, come on out here. You're going to call it. I'm going to flip it, and let's see where we end up. What do you got, heads or tails?
Tails.
Heads it is. All right. Andrew, what do you think?
I will take the con side, please.
All right. Pro goes first. Will, I'm going to have you go back there, and you go first. You have 3 minutes as a proponent in this round. Go ahead, Will.
As concerns for traffic deaths have increased, more and more cities have made a deal with the devil, installing red light cameras at the expense of the lives and characters of their cities in return for a quick buck. Red light cameras should be prohibited. My first argument is that radar cameras are ineffective and actually cause more crashes. While red light cameras may decrease what are called right angle crashes, they substantially worsen rear end crashes, a much more prevalent and dangerous kind of crash. According to Forest Council, that's a person, in 7 provinces where red light cameras were absent and then installed, rear end crashes increased by 56%. A separate study from the city of Garland, Texas, found that rear-end crashes increased 45% with the addition of red light cameras. From the same study, intersections with red light cameras removed saw a decrease of rear-end crashes by 82%. This harm is so great that the Federal Highway Administration writes that the increase in rear-end accidents negates any positive benefit that the cameras have. According to motorists.org, the preponderance of independent research, in other words, the research that was not funded by ticket camera vendors or units of governments interested in justifying camera-based traffic enforcement, has illustrated that ticket cameras typically increase, not decrease, the number of accidents at controlled intersections. As we can see, red light cameras are failing to carry out the very purpose that they were put in place to. You wouldn't put up stop signs if they didn't make people stop. These cameras are totally unnecessary. States across the nation are wising up. Recently, California voters unanimously voted to rid the state of their red light cameras. Now onto my second argument. Red light cameras are a deal with the devil. Cameras are too expensive to install and don't bring in enough money to be worth it. While Andrew may bring up nice statistics about all the dough rolling in, what he leaves out is that those statistics refer to the amount of money fined. The amount paid is substantially less because the majority of the time, judges waive the fine. This causes cities to issue more red light tickets for things that human police officers would never do. The cold, heartless machines are relentless in their pursuit of driving perfection. Cities have been reported to even change traffic laws just to garner a larger profit. Zev Germain of the Digital Trends writes that this leads to cities signing a deal with the devil, signing away the souls of their cities for a quick buck. Thank you, and I stand in firm affirmation.
All right, well, thank you very much. Andrew, right now you have 2 minutes to question him.
All right, my first question for you, Will, is you mentioned that rear-end crashes increased by 30 or 45%. I'm curious as to what these numbers were before and after.
So I'm not sure of the specific numbers, but relatively, the amount of crashes have increased. That is what is important for us to look at.
Thank you. So one of your studies talked about Garland, Texas, correct? And
yes.
They were analyzing specific cities across the nation?
Yes.
Okay. And I would also like to inquire about your Forest study. I was curious about what credentials or what particular qualifications that Forest study might have.
So that study was actually very good. It is what we refer to as panel data. It looked at different cities around the country for an extended period of time, and it found that in those different cities, the amount of crashes were reduced when red light cameras were removed.
Thank you. And my other question is, should we, when we're evaluating these red light cameras, should we also look at the severity of the crashes as well as the quantity, or should we only look at quantity?
I think that the amount of fatalities and people injured is what we will look at. And as we've seen from my speech, the amount of fatalities significantly increases with the installation of red light cameras.
So you agree that we should be looking at the number of deaths and number of injuries as well as just how many potential minor accidents might occur, correct?
I believe that crashes in general are a bad thing. Obviously, fatal crashes are worse and should be calculated more in a decision calculus.
Okay. Thank you. Also, one more thing is that I would like to inquire as to your contention about selling our souls to the devil. How are we necessarily selling our souls to the devil?
So what cities are doing is having these cold, heartless machines, these robocops, policing their people instead of having nice humans. So if someone actually has a legitimate reason for a traffic violation, a policeman or woman might be nice to them and might be understanding, but these machines are cold and they will never have the understanding or compassion that police officers do.
Sorry, one more question. Aren't there people behind the cameras that also review the cameras to make sure these cold, heartless machines aren't just relentless?
That may be true, but the personal touch will never be enough.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Should the use of photo radar be permitted? That's the question at hand. Andrew, you now have the con side. The floor is yours for 3 minutes. Go ahead.
In 2015, Colorado saw the deadliest year of traffic fatalities since 2008. Over 500 Coloradans died from traffic-related accidents, and according to the Colorado Department of Transportation, the odds of dying in a traffic accident continue to climb. In the 21st century, these odds ought to be going down, not up. And thus, I am proud to stand in firm negation of today's resolution. Banning red light cameras would be a severe step in the wrong direction, and I will prove this to you through my main argument in today's debate, which is that red light cameras and photo radar uphold safety on our roads. In 2010, a study by the Tulane University School of Medicine found unequivocal evidence that red light cameras change driver behavior through psychological deterrence. In other words, because drivers don't want to get those $75 tickets, they are less likely to engage in risky driving behavior when they approach these large intersections. And these intersections are especially susceptible to serious accidents. So this is a large deterrent effect. In Baton Rouge, for example, the first 30 days of camera implementation had over 2,000 violations, but 8 months later, there were fewer than 400. What's more, only 3 drivers received more than 1 citation, underscoring the very potent deterrent effect that these camera systems have. But the psychological deterrent effects aren't just true of this Baton Rouge study. A 2011 study by the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety analyzed data from 14 large U.S. cities from 1992 to 1996 and 2004 to 2008 and found that in cities with red light camera programs, the average annual citywide rate of fatal red light running crashes declined by 35%. Opponents may claim that this decline is due to correlation and not causation, but by examining citywide crash rates for cities with camera programs and without them for using similar control cities, the study accounted for these common weaknesses. In Colorado, the safety improvement has been even better than the national average. Crashes have fallen by nearly half in Denver since camera installation, and in 2008 and in Littleton, violations decreased from 16,000 in 2010 to 9,000 last year. The numbers are clear. Red light cameras and photo radar uphold safety in our communities, and banning them will continue the frightening uptick in fatalities on our roads that we saw in 2015. Next, let's look to the main argument of opponents of red light cameras, that they cost too much to justify continuing programs. Fort Collins is a perfect example of why this is simply not true. Revenue from red light cameras amounted to $662,000 last year, of which $380,000 went back to the company that provides the technologies, while the other $300,000 was directed to traffic safety and mitigation funds and used to invest in additional programming targeting speeding. So it's worth noting that this money is actually going back to improve safety in our communities. Finally, let's take a step back and look at the central question we should ask ourselves at the end of the debate, and I'll come back to this in my final speech. Are red light cameras and photo radar so ineffective at promoting safety that it warrants a complete ban, as the affirmative is proposing? Keep in mind that previous bills in Colorado have created exceptions for construction zones and school zones, but that my opponent Will is advocating for a complete ban of all red light cameras. The answer to that question is no, because the value of a human life is worth much more than the value of a camera. I am proud to stand in negation of today's topic. Thank you.
Andrew, thank you very much. Will, now you have 2 minutes for questions to Andrew. Your time begins now. Go ahead.
Andrew, I would question why a school of medicine is qualified to speak on the effect of red light cameras in deterring traffic accidents.
Right. So the School of Medicine at Tulane is also, I neglected to include, it's also analyzes transportation, and it's just a school that doesn't only analyze medicine, but it also has other interdisciplinary focuses.
Okay, that's cool. So why should the government be allowed to watch us constantly?
Because driving is a public activity that as Katz versus United States, the court case states, driving is a regulated activity that is done in the public, which means that it's not afforded Fourth Amendment protections.
So should we blindly follow past instances of judicial review?
We shouldn't blindly follow instances of judicial review, but given the evidence I've presented in today's debate that red light cameras reduce accidents, especially fatal ones, as we discussed in the previous questioning period, that is a compelling reason for us to continue these types of programs.
You say that red light cameras psychologically deter drivers from dangerous behavior. However, wouldn't you agree that slamming on the brakes in a possibly crowded street and crowded intersection just to avoid a fine constitutes dangerous behavior?
I would argue that maybe it might cause more rear-end accidents, but these accidents are comparatively minor compared to right-angle accidents where the side of a vehicle is hit by the front of another vehicle. And that's what my studies really get at, is how many people are dying from these accidents. And looking at the most serious accidents, and it's clear that hundreds and thousands of lives have been saved in Denver alone by these red light traffic cameras.
But at the point where the Federal Highway Administration is saying that because of the increase in rear-end crashes, that right-angle crashes are irrelevant, why should we look at the effect or increase of right-angle crashes?
Because that's only one section of the article. The other section of the article takes into account cities like Denver, where we've seen different results and hundreds and thousands of lives saved.
Okay, that's okay. So why is an insurance institute not biased?
An insurance institute, well, it analyzes highway safety. So it uses a methodology, a mathematical methodology, that analyzes thousands of traffic incidents. So I think that's pretty rigorous, and it's not just making up things.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, that's it for the questions there. But Will, you now have 2 minutes for a rebuttal. Let's hear it.
What we need to focus on in today's debate is which plan will have more safety for the citizens of our state. Red light cameras are ineffective in creating safety. As our cross-examination showed, they create a dangerous psychology and a dangerous driving behavior because drivers will do anything to avoid the fine. They will slam on their brakes. This has caused an 80% increase in rear-end accidents. This is way more than the increase in right-angle accidents, and we should focus on rear-end accidents because they happen so much more often. According to motorist.org, as I stated in my first speech, the increase in this type of accident has made every other safety benefit irrelevant. Even if they have saved some lives, the lives that have been lost because of this are incalculable. We're also not taking into consideration the pedestrians, the bikes, the motorcycles, and the people in intersections who are being run over because of this same psychological effect. Simply, the safest way to go is to remove all of red light cameras. Now, as Andrew points out, they make money. This is exactly my point, and this is the problem. Cities are extorting money from their poorest citizens in the form of unfair and unprecedented traffic tickets. Our cities are becoming RoboCop-controlled police states, where they are just going to get us for the most minor traffic violations, even if they're unfair. The personal touch of a policeman or woman will never be there because the red light cameras are relentless. They are relentless in their pursuit of perfection, and it is a standard that we as humans can never live up to. This is a bad model for community and deters the soul of our city and our state as a whole. Even if it saves lives, the culture of our state is invaluable and helps the lives of millions of people every day. This is what we should prefer in this debate. Whose plan makes it so we have a better culture as a community, better community continuity? Removing red light cameras is the only way that we can effectively achieve both goals, the goal of first safety and the goal of valuing and maintaining the community and culture of our great state of Colorado. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. The question at hand, again, should the use of photo radars be permitted? Will has the pro, Andrew has the con. Andrew, you have 3 minutes to respond and close. Go ahead.
The one thing I want you to remember in today's debate when you're evaluating it is that the value of a human life far exceeds the cost of a single camera. If we are saving hundreds and thousands of lives, and if I prove that to you in today's debate, that makes the money that we're spending on these red traffic light cameras very worth it because we're saving lives. Now, I agree with Will that the central issue in today's debate is we should consider whether these red light cameras contribute to safety. Now, I disagree with him on what the effect of red light cameras on these safety issues, as well as the severity of the accidents that Will is talking about. So let's move on to his first main argument, which is that rear-end crashes have increased by 45%. First, remember that his study is specific of one city in Texas, while the resolution is grounded in Colorado, and we're considering Coloradan issues. In Denver, specifically, according to the Coloradan, crashes have declined by half since implementation of these red light cameras in 2008. So you should only evaluate this Coloradan piece of evidence because it's the only one grounded in the topic and the resolution we're discussing. Next, we also have to look at severity of these accidents in addition to the quantity of accidents. Will says that the quantity of accidents in rear-end crashes have increased by 45%. But according to the Institute of Highway Safety, this is distorted for cherry-picked cities across the nation, while you should prefer my study, which indicates that which analyzes 14 major U.S. cities and indicates that the rate of fatal crashes has decreased by 35%. The key word in that piece of evidence is fatal. We're looking at the number of people who have died from accidents relating to running red lights. And these cameras have put have made a big difference in reducing these types of crashes. Now, let's move on to his next argument, which is that we're selling our souls to the devil. Remember, people are reviewing these cameras. It's not just these cameras just being relentless, as Will talks about. Siri may be awesome, but she's not in cameras yet as of iOS 10. So we cannot, it's not these cameras making unilateral actions. So let's go back to the central question in today's debate. Are cameras so ineffective that we should completely ban all of them in school zones, in construction zones, everywhere where safety is imperative? And the answer to that question is no. Remember, we are looking at Colorado, and in Colorado, the Coloradan evidence is clear. Crashes have declined by half. In order for Will to win this debate, he needs to contest this specific Colorado piece of evidence because that is what this debate centers around. And remember, in an 8-month period in Baton Rouge, violations decreased by 80%, and that's very similar to what happened in Denver, according to the Coloradan. So give it 8 more months, and we will fight this trend that has continued in Colorado in 2015 about how it was the deadliest year in fatal car accidents. Thank you.
Andrew, thank you very much. Finally, Will, your 1-minute close. Go ahead.
There are two issues in this debate, and they are both resolved by ending the red light cameras at traffic stops. Firstly, Andrew says my evidence is from one city in Texas. That is simply false. I have panel data, the gold standard of data that comes from multiple cities across the country. The comprehensive data points that red light cameras increase fatalities. Andrew may be right that right-angle crashes are more severe. However, the vast quantity of rear-angle accidents overcomes that and makes them actually more dangerous. One is more severe, the other has greater quantity, but the quantity is so much greater that it can overwhelm that. My next argument is the culture of our cities. Andrew is right that cameras aren't unilateral. However, it is still the fact that we are being judged by our driving in a way that human officers would never be doing that. He says that they're reviewed and such, but people simply don't have the time to go into court and argue that they're fine. Most people just take it. Maybe you could get it reviewed, but that's just simply not what happens. The poor, and especially the poorest citizens of our community, are the ones that don't have the time for that. The very people who need the help the most are being drained penny by penny. They're being nickeled and dimed by the government just to have a quick buck. And because of these reasons, I stand in firm affirmation.
Well, thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you very much for that spirited debate. All right, let's go to our panel of experts now to get their thoughts on what they saw. Dominic, take it away.
Al, thank you very much. It was a rigorous debate, gentlemen. Let's start with some questions for Will. Carly, do you want to start us off?
Sure. So I guess what I'm wondering, thank you first of all for your comments. I think the biggest question is, if I'm not doing anything wrong, then why is it a problem for us to have cameras looking at what it is that we're doing and taking pictures of other people who are obviously making poor choices and creating dangerous situations?
Well, this comes down to the classic example. Would you let me read all of your text messages? No? Well, that means you're guilty, right? Even if we're not guilty, we still deserve privacy. And a lot of people run red lights.
Well, let me follow up with a question about local control. An all-out ban statewide would eliminate any possibility. Maybe a small town in eastern Colorado wants to have control to say, we do want a photo radar in our city, but now we can't do it because of a statewide ban. Do you think that's fair?
Well, at the point where the aggregate data is pointing to an increase in safety, I do think it is fair. And as we have seen in California, a statewide ban, it is not unprecedented.
Andrew, I have a few questions for you. Marty, you want to start us off?
Andrew, when you talk about fatal crashes, can you elaborate further on the severity of rear-end crashes versus right-angle crashes?
Right. So when the fronts of these cars are colliding into the sides of the cars, it's far more likely that the driver, which is sitting in the front of the vehicle and getting collided, is getting direct impact from a very heavy car, which is far more likely to result in different types of fatal accidents. Now, my Institute of Highway Safety research article indicates that in 14 major U.S. cities, the rate of fatal crashes declined by 35% as a result of these cameras. So I am really pushing this argument as we should look at the severity of these arguments, of these crashes, as well as the frequency.
Thank you.
Andrew, let me ask you a question. The Colorado legislature has tried to ban photo radar, ban red light cameras for a while, and they usually get stopped as a veto, really from a lot of lobbying from cities. It seems that we've seen safety statistics from Will and from you. If the safety statistics kind of balance out, or if we don't ban this, aren't we just enabling a massive city fundraiser?
And that's exactly where I am going to push ahead in this debate, because if you'll remember to my second contention, where we look at the common arguments of opponents, $300,000 of what Fort Collins received in revenue from red light cameras went back into a fund that is researching how to improve these traffic accidents. So this money isn't just being sold to the devil or anything. It's actually being put to good use. So that's exactly why these red light cameras not only are preventing accidents, but they're also looking to the future and possible mechanisms that we can implement in the future.
Well, gentlemen, I think you've answered some great questions on this side. Alan, if we could have a moment or two so we could figure out who has come out victorious.
I know that. All right. We're going to give our panel a moment to consider who they felt won this debate. That gives me a little moment here to let you know that this is one of 8 different debates we're presenting this season. To check out all of them, you can go to cpt12.org/election. All right, panel, here comes the moment of truth. Do you have a decision?
We do barely, Alan. This was, when you have a panel of 3, sometimes you have unanimous, sometimes you do not. This was a split decision. So, gentlemen, you did a great job. But I think at the end of the day, Andrew's argumentation won the debate. But again, a split decision. No reason to hang your head low, Will. It was a great debate. And Andrew, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right, Andrew, congratulations. Will, well done as well. And a lot of people learned a lot today. Congratulations. You both gave our viewers really a wonderful debate tonight, and you both really ought to be very proud. Now, you'll go on here to compete against the winner from George Washington High School coming up on Friday, October 28th. And that's all the time we have time for in our program tonight. I want to thank all of our excellent students for accepting our challenge and participating in our debates. I also want to thank our esteemed panel for sharing their thoughts tonight. And finally, thank you for tuning in. It's the support of viewers like you and our sponsors that helps to make this show a reality. This is the 3rd of 8 episodes of Both Sides of the Story. Next Friday, October 7th at 9:30 p.m., debaters from George Washington High School will debate whether Colorado's gasoline tax should be raised to help increase highway funding. And if you're looking for more information about this program or about the Colorado Decides debate series, please go to our website, cpt12.org/election or cbsdenver.com. And you can catch me every morning on CBS 4 for all the latest news and information about this year's election and issues. This has been Both Sides of the Story for everyone here at Colorado Public Television. I'm Alan Janae. Thanks for watching. That's Both Sides of the Story. Good night.